They say when you return to your childhood home as an adult, everything looks smaller. The hallways aren't as long, the ceiling's not as high. But when I stepped into my father's house after 5 years away, it felt bigger. Not in the comforting way. In the haunted, echoing, something's missing kind of way. The door creaked behind me as it shut. I had been avoiding this place ever since Mom's funeral 3 months ago. It wasn't just grief. It was the way everything about the house had shifted since she died. The light didn't filter through the curtains the same way. The air didn't carry the smell of cinnamon and jasmine anymore. Even the floorboards sounded different under my feet, like they were trying to warn me. "Lena!" Dad's voice came from the kitchen, still deep and calm, but fainter, like someone trying to remember how to speak after a long silence. I followed the voice, suitcase in hand. I had promised I'd only stay a few days, just long enough to help him get back on his feet. That was the arrangement. Caleb wasn't happy about it, but he understood. "He's your father," he'd said on the phone. "Just be careful, okay?" Grief does strange things to people. Dad was standing at the stove when I walked in, stirring something in a pot. He looked thinner than I remembered, a little more stooped over, like his grief had weight. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said without turning around. "I wasn't sure either," I admitted, dropping my bag by the door. "But I brought your favorite tea. And the cinnamon bread from Nina's." He finally turned. His eyes were puffy and red-rimmed, but they lit up briefly at the mention of the bakery. "Your mother used to bring that home every Friday." I forced a smile. "I remember." He looked at me for a long moment, then opened his arms, tentative. I hesitated, just a second too long, but stepped forward and let him hug me. His sweater smelled like old paper and detergent, and his arms were stronger than I expected. We ate in mostly silence, save for the clinking of spoons and the occasional sigh. He buttered his bread slowly, methodically, as though doing it wrong might offend someone. Then, without warning, he looked up. "I've been thinking," he said carefully. I tilted my head. "About what?" "About moving on." I set my spoon down, cautiously optimistic. "That's good. Mom wouldn't have wanted you to be alone forever." He nodded. "Exactly. But I don't want someone new. I want someone who understands me, who understands this house, who knows me." There was something odd about the way he said it, a tightness in his tone, like he was testing my reaction. "I guess that makes sense," I said slowly, trying to feel out what he meant. He reached across the table and gently took my hand. "That's why I want you to stay, Lena. Not just as my daughter, but as my partner." The words didn't register at first. My brain scrambled to assign a meaning that wasn't there. Maybe he meant emotional support, helping with bills, running the house together. But then I saw the way he looked at me, the way his hand lingered too long, too soft, the pause in his breath as if waiting for something more. I pulled my hand back like it had burned me. "No," I said, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. "Dad, no, that's not okay." His face contorted, shock, then shame, then something unreadable. He immediately backtracked. "God, Lena, I didn't mean that the way it sounded. I'm sorry. It's just the grief. It messes with my head. Sometimes I don't know what I'm saying." I nodded stiffly, but something inside me recoiled. Something ancient, like instinct. That night, I locked my bedroom door. I also called Caleb and told him everything. "You need to get out of there," he said immediately. "Tonight." But I didn't. Not yet. I needed to understand what was happening. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't just about grief. Something was off. Something was wrong. And I needed answers before I could leave. Sleep was impossible that night. Even with the door locked, even after double-checking every window latch and closet door, my body stayed alert. Every creak of the old pipes, every groan of acetylene floorboards sounded louder than it should. The walls felt thinner, the air heavier. It was just after 2 a.m. when I finally gave up trying. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan rotating slowly above me. Dust clung to the blades like it had been there for years. Had Dad not cleaned it since she died? Or before? I reached for my phone on the nightstand and reread Caleb's last message. "Lena, I don't care if you need closure. Something's not right there. You know it. Please just come home. Home." It was funny how a word could lose its shape so quickly. I texted back. "Give me 2 more days. I promise. I just need to be sure. I didn't expect a reply at that hour, and none came. I turned off the phone and stared back at the ceiling. The silence didn't feel empty. It felt crowded, like something was watching. Waiting. The next morning, Dad acted like nothing had happened. He greeted me with coffee already made and scrambled eggs on the stove. His eyes were bright, almost too cheerful, his voice smooth like polished glass. "Sleep okay?" he asked. "Fine," I lied. "Good. I thought we could sort through the attic today. There's still a lot of your mother's things up there." He said it casually, but there was something performative about it, like he was trying to redirect my attention. I agreed anyway. I needed time to think, and the attic might offer some answers. After breakfast, he handed me the key to the attic and told me to go ahead. He'd join me in a bit. I climbed the narrow staircase slowly, the wood groaning under each step. The door stuck a little before creaking open, releasing a musty wave of air that smelled like cedar and mothballs. Inside, the space was dim, lit only by a small window crusted with dust. Boxes were stacked neatly, labeled in my mother's handwriting, * Christmas decor *, old photos, keepsakes. But I wasn't looking for memories. I was looking for proof. I started at the back, opening drawers, lifting lids. Most of what I found was innocent: albums, letters, faded cards, until I came across a small wooden chest tucked beneath a stack of blankets. It was unmarked. I opened it carefully. Inside were journals, dozens of them. The leather bindings were worn smooth with age, and I recognized Dad's handwriting immediately: tight, slanted, meticulous. I glanced toward the attic door, then pulled out one of the journals and flipped to a random page. * March 3rd. The house feels empty, not just in sound, but in spirit. Sometimes I walk past her room and see Lena's door cracked open, and I think for just a second she's back. And then it's gone. But last night I dreamed of her again. Not young, not as a child, but grown. She was standing in the kitchen, wearing Elaine's apron, pouring tea like she used to. She turned to me and smiled. It felt like fate. It felt like she belonged here. *. I froze. My chest tightened. I flipped forward. * April 17th. Grief is a tide, but sometimes it recedes. When Lena returned, something shifted. I watch her move through this house, and it's like watching Elaine's spirit stitched into flesh again. Her voice, her grace. Maybe this isn't a tragedy. Maybe it's a second chance. *. I dropped the journal back into the chest like it had burned me. That wasn't grief. That wasn't mourning. That was something else entirely. Something dangerous. I confronted him that evening. Not all at once. I waited until the dishes were done, until he settled into his chair by the fireplace with the old throw blanket Mom used to curl under. The room glowed with soft light from the lamps. It should have felt peaceful. It didn't. "Dad," I said, standing in the doorway. "We need to talk." He looked up, wary. "About what?" "I read your journals." There was a pause, a flicker in his eyes, like a shutter snapping closed. "I told you not to go snooping. You didn't tell me anything. I found them in the attic. And what you wrote, that wasn't normal, Dad. That wasn't just grief." He didn't deny it. He didn't even try. Instead, he folded the blanket in his lap, carefully, precisely. "I know how it sounds," he said finally, "but you have to understand, when someone you love dies, the line between memory and desire gets thin. You start to wonder if the universe is trying to guide you somewhere." I took a step back. The universe didn't guide you to this. He stood then, slowly, like a man preparing for battle. "I never hurt you," he said quiet. "I never would. But when you came back, it felt like something divine. Like Elaine had sent you. I'm not her. I know. But you carry her in you. The way you walk. The way you laugh. Even your silence." He took a step forward. I backed away. "This isn't healthy," I whispered. "You need help." He blinked. Just once. Then sat back down and looked into the fire. "I know," he said softly. "I know I do." That night, I packed my bags in silence. I didn't tell him I was leaving. I just waited until he fell asleep in his chair, then walked out the front door and didn't look back. But even as I drove away, the house stayed with me. Its shadows clung to the inside of my skull, whispering. And the worst part, I couldn't tell if I was running from him or from something else that lived there, something I hadn't fully seen yet. Because deep down, I didn't think the worst was over. I thought it had just begun. I didn't go straight back to Caleb's. I couldn't. Even after everything that happened at the house, there was a gnawing feeling in my gut, like a part of me had been left behind. Maybe it was just the need for closure. Maybe it was guilt. I parked my car a few blocks away from the house, unsure of what I was looking for. I just needed to see it again, to feel it again. It was almost midnight when I crept back up the porch steps, the wooden planks creaking under my feet like they remembered me. The house seemed to be watching, the curtains fluttering slightly with the wind. It looked the same, but I felt it differently now, like it had been waiting for me to come back. The door wasn't locked. I hesitated before stepping inside, every fiber of my being screaming that it was wrong, that I had no business being here. But still, I pushed the door open. The hallway was dark, the familiar scent of old wood and faded perfume hanging in the air. For a second, it felt like nothing had changed. But the further I went into the house, the more I realized how much it had shifted. There was a presence here. I could feel it in the walls, in the floor beneath me, in the air that felt too thick, too heavy. I moved silently through the house, almost afraid to make a sound. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of what I'd read in Dad's journals. The way you laugh, the way you walk. He wasn't just grieving anymore. He was seeing something in me, something that wasn't me at all. And then, as I passed by the living room, I froze. I thought I heard something. A soft rustle, like the sound of paper being shifted. I turned quickly, my pulse picking up. The room was dim, lit only by the moonlight filtering through the curtains. But there, on the coffee table, lay something out of place. A small, folded note. It was too neatly placed, as if it had been waiting for me to find it. I walked over and picked it up, my heart pounding in my chest. The note was simple. The handwriting, unfamiliar. But the words sent a chill down my spine. I know what you're doing. I'm watching you. I stared at the words, blinking to clear my vision. It didn't make sense. Who had left this note? I was alone in the house, wasn't I? I looked around, my breath quickening. The living room, where we used to sit as a family. The room where I used to watch my mom and dad talk, argue, laugh. It was empty now, as it always had been since her death. But tonight, it felt different. The walls felt like they were closing in, pressing against me. I didn't belong here anymore. I stuffed the note into my pocket and rushed to the door. Just as I was about to reach the handle, I heard it. Something small, like a footstep on the floor behind me. My heart leapt into my throat. I turned slowly, but no one was there. The shadows were deep in the corners of the room. The air felt thick, like it was pressing against my skin. I reached for my phone in my pocket, but it wasn't there. Panic surged through me as I fumbled around, but nothing, nothing, was right anymore. It felt like I was being pulled into the house, like the rooms were swallowing me whole. Without thinking, I bolted out the door and back to my car, my heart pounding so loudly in my ears that it drowned out everything else. The drive back to Caleb's apartment was a blur. I couldn't stop looking over my shoulder, convinced someone was following me. But there was no one. It was just the house. The house. When I pulled into Caleb's parking lot, I saw him waiting on the balcony, looking down at me. He waved and disappeared back inside. I should have gone up. I should have told him everything, but I didn't. I couldn't. The house still had its claws in me, dragging me back, pulling at my thoughts. I sat in my car for a few more minutes, trying to breathe, trying to calm down. That's when I heard it, footsteps, just behind me. I jerked around, but no one was there. I was losing my mind. The next few days were a haze. I tried to block out the nightmares, the whispers in the corners of my mind. But the house, my house, kept haunting me. I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just memories that lived there, that there was something deeper, something darker. I avoided Dad's calls, ignored his messages. He didn't need to know I was back in the city. I couldn't face him. Not yet. But Caleb couldn't stay away. He came over every day, insisting I needed rest, that I needed to talk. I couldn't even look him in the eye. The image of that note haunted me. I'm watching you, star. Caleb didn't know how to handle my silence. He didn't understand why I was pushing him away, why I couldn't talk. He kept trying to make me open up, but I couldn't. I just need time, I told him one night, my voice barely a whisper. I need to figure out what's happening. But what if I already knew? What if I was too scared to admit it? I couldn't go back to the house. I couldn't bear it, but I also couldn't let it go. So, I did what any sane person would do in my situation. I went to the library. I spent hours searching for anything related to the house. Anything that might explain the unease, the strange pull I felt whenever I thought about it. It wasn't until I stumbled across an old article buried deep in a local archive section that I found what I was looking for. The house had a history. Not just a family history, not just the stories we told ourselves. It had a dark history. In the late 1800s, it was a mansion, owned by a family whose name had long been erased from the town's records. There had been rumors of disappearances, of strange happenings, stories of people being watched, of being followed. People said the house changed them. I stopped reading, the weight of the paper in my hands heavy. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. The house was calling to me. But what if I didn't want to listen anymore? I couldn't stay away any longer. The more I tried to ignore it, the more the house tugged at me, pulling me back like a dark, unyielding force. The note, the footsteps, the sense that something wasn't right, it all pointed to the same conclusion. I had to face it. I drove back to the house late one night, this time with no intentions of leaving until I understood everything. The past few days had been torturous, haunted by that article, by the feeling of being watched. But no more running. No more hiding. I parked across the street and just sat there for a moment, staring at the house. The familiar shadows stretched long across the yard. There was something sinister about the way it stood there, like it had been waiting for me, like it knew I'd come back. The door creaked as I pushed it open. The house welcomed me, its silence heavy, oppressive. I stepped inside, breathing in the stale air, the scent of dust and old memories. The floorboards beneath me seemed to groan in protest as I walked, echoing my every step. It was as if the house was alive, watching, listening, waiting. I had a plan this time. No more wandering aimlessly. I was going straight to the heart of it. I headed for the living room, my pulse quickening with each step. The note was still in my pocket, and the fear gnawing at me had only grown. What if it wasn't just grief? What if it was something darker, something I had never even considered? I couldn't let it go. I stood in the doorway of the living room and froze. There, in the dim light, was Dad. He was sitting in the same armchair where I used to see him every night when I was little. But this time he wasn't alone. A figure stood in the corner of the room, shrouded in shadow. I felt my heart stop. I stepped back, trying not to make a sound, but the floor betrayed me with another creak. Dad looked up, his eyes wide. "Jessica!" His voice was quiet, uncertain. But it wasn't just the way he said my name that unsettled me. It was the figure standing there, just out of reach of the light. I couldn't make out their face, but the silhouette, tall, thin, was unmistakable. Before I could react, the figure stepped forward. "Dad!" I whispered, my voice trembling. "Who is that?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, his gaze shifted to the figure, as if waiting for permission. And then the figure spoke. "You know who I am." The voice was low, unfamiliar, but there was something about it that felt too familiar. "It's time to stop pretending." I took a step back, my legs almost giving way beneath me. "Dad, what is going on?" "Who is that?" And then, in the silence that followed, the figure stepped into the light. It was a woman. Dark hair, pale skin. Her face was hauntingly familiar. Too familiar. But there was something off about it. Something wrong. I blinked. It was my mother. Or at least, it looked like her. "Jessica!" my dad whispered, his voice shaking. "I didn't want you to find out like this, but she's been with me. She's been here." I felt a rush of nausea, the walls closing in around me. "Impossible," I gasped. "She's dead? She, *U*, can't be here." But the woman, my mother's face, smiled, and it was a smile that sent ice through my veins. "You're not ready to hear the truth," she said softly. "But you will be. Soon." I looked at my dad, searching his face for any sign of sanity, any trace of the man I had known. But there was nothing there. His eyes were hollow, distant. This isn't real," I whispered, shaking my head, trying to back away. But the woman stepped closer. Oh, it's real. All of it. The grief, the pull, the need for someone who understands. She looked at my dad, her eyes filled with a twisted affection. I told you she'd come back. I told you the house would bring her back. My heart was hammering in my chest. No. You can't be real. This isn't happening. This isn't. It's been happening all along, Jessica, the woman said, her voice growing sharper, colder. This house, your father, me, we're all part of something bigger. Something you can't escape. My vision blurred as I took a step back, my legs threatening to give out beneath me. I had to get out of here. I had to leave. But just as I turned to run, the door slammed shut behind me. I froze. The house had locked me in. I couldn't breathe. We've been waiting for you, the woman said, her voice low and soft as she stepped closer, her figure growing larger, more menacing. And then, just as quickly as she'd appeared, she vanished. The room was empty again. I was alone. I didn't know how much time passed before I finally managed to break free of the house. I stumbled out onto the porch, gasping for air. The door was open now, like it had never been locked. But the chill in my bones wouldn't go away. The truth, the darkness, it all felt too real now. I drove straight to Caleb's, too shaken to even look back. The house was gone, but the memory of the figure of the things she said would follow me for the rest of my life. When I reached Caleb's apartment, I found him waiting, a concerned expression on his face. But I didn't have the words to explain. I didn't have the words to tell him what I had seen, or what was still lurking in the corners of my mind. I didn't say anything. I just hugged him tightly, feeling the warmth of his embrace like a lifeline. And for the first time in days, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, I could find peace again.